Hey, what is going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a brand new episode of A Definitive Discussion Rebooted, where I bring on phenomenal individuals from all over the internet and various places like social media and YouTube, and bring them onto the show to talk about a whole bunch of different things. If you guys haven't yet, I highly suggest you guys check out all the episodes I have in a playlist over on the YouTube channel right now, including some of the stuff that I have on Patreon. You guys got to check me out on Patreon because I got a bunch of exclusive content that are kind of offshoots of these episodes that you guys definitely want to look into. For the dollar level or higher, you're going to get a whole bunch of exclusive content that's really freaking dope. And speaking of dope, I got a cool special guest with me today. I got Krystle Starr, who is not only an influencer, content creator, she does cosplay. She does a variety of different stuff that she's joining me here on the show. Krystle, what's good? I haven't heard from you in a good minute.
I know, since E3, so it's been a very, very long time.
Not this E3 that just passed, the previous E3 for everybody that's listening, so it's like that's lot longer.
Yeah, yeah, a year and a few weeks.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have totally gone to E3 this year. It was definitely on the list of things to do, but I got sidetracked with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland.
You were busy. You were doing real stuff. You were drinking blue milk. I hope you got the blue milk. Tell me you got the blue milk.
Of course I got the blue milk. I tried the green milk. We got all kinds of drinks at the cantina. So we actually got in, we were allowed to get into the park 3 separate times, which is pretty rare, but we rigged the system by each of us like actually getting a day, like a hotel for each night. Wow. So that's kind of how we cheated the system there.
You're over there, you're doing the scoundrel's way of getting into Galaxy's Edge. That's what I like to hear. That's what I'm talking about.
No other way. No other way.
Right?
Yeah.
That's dope. But you're on the show. Thank you for coming on. I wanted to bring you on because obviously you have a real good insight and perspective into geek culture. You know, you've done a lot. Like I mentioned before, you've been doing a lot of stuff with content creation. You have Nerd Ninja, all the content you've been doing on there, I've been seeing on Instagram. You obviously have done a lot of cosplay work and a lot of shoots. You're doing a ton of different stuff that's from all different facets of geeking, like, you know, nerd culture. A lot of people have different phrases for it all over the place, but it encompasses a lot of different things. I mean, have you been enjoying it thus far? I mean, has it really taken you to a lot of places? I mean, I assume Galaxy's Edge, that's pretty freaking awesome already.
Yes, that was a dream come true for sure. I honestly didn't think that we were going to be able to be there opening weekend. So I just kind of put it out of my mind. And then like weeks before, I mean, like 2 weeks before, my friend was like, hey, we are going to fly you out. We're going to put you up and we're going to get you into the park. First, like we were literally the first batch of people in the park, and we got to go the night before it opened. So that was kind of like a preview, and that was just absolutely fantastic. So even though I didn't technically work for this company, they brought us out, I guess because we were influencers, and they knew they were going to have a good time with us, and they did. And it was just like it's been crazy. It's definitely been like an 8-year-long crazy process. But yeah, I've worked on TV, I've worked on movies, I've worked on video games, I've worked on apps, worked on multiple comic books. This is I'm actually coming out with my first comic book that I've written called Ninja Knockouts, published by Nerd Ninja and Dirtbag Toons.
I saw the promos for it. It's pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah. I super excited. The Kickstarter is going to launch in like 4 days.
Also right around the corner, so it's almost time for it.
It's time. Yeah, I'm like staring at it right now.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. So with that being said, since you've done all these different things, I mean, because I come more from the gaming space. Obviously, us gamers, we're all into like different types of geek culture and nerd culture and the different facets under this umbrella of stuff. I mean, for you, I mean, is there one aspect of like this type of culture better than the other, or the one that you've had the more fun with? Because I've seen you on places like the Avengers Endgame premiere. I know I saw you in a couple images and some of the stream feeds all over the place, as well as also the images you were sharing and stuff. And then obviously I saw you and met you at E3. So you've been in different places, but like, do you have like a preference of really which one did you like getting involved with a little bit more?
I think I like working for the films more than anything else. Like the game stuff is cool, but it doesn't pay as much as the film. And the game stuff is cool, but they don't feed you as well as the film crews. The film crews definitely like they put you up in like amazing hotels. Cause I don't know about like for everyone, but yeah. I've been very fortunate to work with Marvel a lot for for films. And I've actually worked for Marvel and DC,
Oh,
actually.
so you had both companies.
Yeah. Actually, they're pretty equal. I worked for the DC film that's coming out next October. Wink, wink, the big
Uh-oh.
one. Yeah. So I got to work on that one in New York. Wink, wink. And
We got
it
all
was
the internet sleuths all over the place. There are people hacking the system right now. They're looking for it.
yeah, so I got to work on that last October, which is interesting. And I just I loved every minute of working on that set. And I've because of the cosplay and other stuff that I do, um, I'm actually very fortunate to have met a lot of and know a lot of people on that set. So because we do like digital scanning for the movies, so like we help with the special. I'm basically special effects department, and I got to walk on to like the whole set, and I was, you know, may or may not have taken some pictures, which I'll never
You
post
leaking
or
stuff. We caught you.
yeah, right. Well, I got permission. I got permission to take
I'm
it.
pretty sure they're really strict about stuff like that, obviously.
Yeah, so actually, the VFX team, we were like some of the only people on the entire set that were even allowed to keep our phones on us. Everybody else has to put their phones, like you literally have a lockbox that it goes in the beginning, like when people like literally like come on the back lots. I guess they're just lots. They're not universal back lots.
They press people at the door, I'm pretty sure. Like, they just make you do all types of stuff with security, I'm correct, right?
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah, but because we're in like a special department, we have like a lot more full reign than like most people, which is really cool. And I kind of I've got a special badge that allows me to go a lot of places. But yeah, I think out of all the things that I've worked on collectively, the movies are best. Then I would say probably I would love to say TV, but TV can be kind of like a
little difficult.
It's really fast paced. Yeah, it's really fast paced. So for me, fast paced. And I just I don't know. I kind of like the gaming a lot more than the TV shows, because gaming depends on what department you're working, depends on what studio you're working with, and depends on it depends on a lot. But when I worked for I got into gaming, and I got into the thing that started all of this was I used to work for Modus Digital, and they are a studio based in Dallas. Because a lot of people think I live in LA, but I actually don't live in LA. I'm actually from D-Town. So I live in Dallas, the big D, and I fly out to LA often
in order to go do work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, most of it's in LA or Canada, surprisingly. A lot of Marvel films are filmed out in Canada now.
That's right.
And yep, and Atlanta. There's a lot filmed in Atlanta and New York. So it's definitely, you said it takes me a lot of places. That is very, very true. The cosplay has taken me a few places too, but nothing like the film and TV. But, I can't really, a lot of people have no idea that I've done a lot of this stuff, or that I do a lot of this stuff, because even for stuff that I worked on 2 years ago, that isn't even out yet.
I see.
Yeah, so I can't talk about a lot of stuff forever, and by the time it does come out, I'm like, meh, I'm over it.
let me ask you this then, because I think this is a good place to explore stuff. Is with some of the stuff that you have worked on, at that point, is it mostly because a lot of people don't know about it because you can't actively talk about it for such an extended period of time? Like you mentioned before, things with security as far as stuff getting out could be really strict. Obviously, these are huge movies, they're big deals, Marvel, DC, etc. like that. But,
oh yeah,
is that part of it, really, to not being able to talk about it because you're told not to talk about it?
Yes, 1000%. Even stuff that comes out Passengers or Guardians and stuff like that, we just there's stuff that I'll never be able to post any photos that I have on the internet. I can show my dad
There you go.
and I actually take a lot of these pictures from my dad, and my dad totally loves it. He's we Capture Dimensions worked on Logan, and my dad was like, "What? Patrick Stewart?"
Oh snap.
so, it just, passengers, other guardians stuff,
Let me ask you this then, because I think this is also a good question too. Is there ever a point, at least with some of the stuff that maybe you can't talk about, because again, you said you can't talk about a lot of stuff that you worked on and stuff, but of the stuff that you can't talk about, what was the one that you either had the most fun or the most difficult, like being a part of?
um the one coming up, the Joker. That's
Yeah.
that's probably, I think, so far my favorite by far. So that one was just amazing for all kinds of reasons, and it was the most amazing, and I wouldn't say the most difficult, but we definitely learned like so much doing that, and that's pretty much all I can say about that. But at least for like another year,
Yeah.
at least longer. But it was just like, meeting like Danny DeVito, like what? Like, and like Joaquin Phoenix, like what? So I just feel like, a lot of these people, it's just a really cool experience
I
that,
feel you.
yeah. So like, it's like the cosplay is great. I have fun dressing up, but over the last probably year, I have definitely, I don't know if it's because I've been doing it for like 7, 8, years.
Like almost a decade.
Yeah, I know. It's making me feel so old, so old. I started when I was a baby in high school, and I just, I guess I'm tired of making costumes.
I know it's difficult. I've had a couple of cosplayers come on the show before, and they all tell me like, yeah, it's tough work. We're out here doing things like that are ridiculously hard than the average person.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm not knocking the community whatsoever. I've been doing cosplay for like, again, 7 to 8 years. It will always be like a part of me, I guess. But I feel like since I've done all this other stuff, a lot of times I feel like kind of like a clown when I'm like at a booth and like selling prints of myself. I just
Feels weird.
It feels weird. Like it didn't used to. It used to be really fun and cool, but um I don't know. I guess since I've seen it like from all the different angles, like literally like every, like I've built, like I've worked for companies that did like convention apps where like we were giants of the convention, and like, I've done hosting for them, and so I'm the one like interviewing all the big celebrities like Tenacious D, The Rock, everybody.
A bunch of different celebrities.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
more because
Kevin
like
Smith, like
is that more because you've done more than just, again, like you said, it's like standing at a booth, obviously. I'm pretty sure that gets boring all day, but you've been able to do
it's so
all these other
boring.
things. Like you've
It's
been
so
able to do a lot
boring.
more fun stuff. Like obviously the interviews is one thing, being able to move around the convention and see all that different type of stuff. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, and I still like, I totally still absolutely love doing the interviews. They're really, really fun. Even when we get celebrities that are kind of like in bad moods, it's still more fun to me than like selling pictures of myself in costumes. I don't know. I feel like out of like like out of my skin, or like not in my skin. I don't know. I feel like not myself when I'm doing that now, which is weird because that's what, I started. Like I've been selling prints at shows for at least as far back as like 5 years, 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. Like I was one of the first cosplayers in Dallas to like sell prints of themselves. And it actually started, I was at Acon, I want to say like 7 years ago, and I saw Yaya Han, and back then she was like one of the very few cosplayers actually selling prints of herself. And I was like, oh man, that's like amazing. And I was doing some modeling for like for Underoos and stuff like that at the time. And I was like, oh, that'd be really cool to do. And so I started making prints of my stuff, and conventions started asking me out as guests, and it was really cool. I loved it. I totally loved interacting with everyone.
But things change, obviously.
Yeah, it just changed. And then for a while I kind of kept doing it because I was teaching adults with special needs. And I was like, in at that time I wasn't cosplaying like a cosplayer guest. I would have a booth at a show and showcase all of my students' work. And I loved it. I loved I loved introducing my students to the public and like teaching them social etiquettes and stuff like that at conventions. It was so much fun. But then I guess after taking my students there, I got to see like another side. So it's weird to be like dressed up, even if I'm not dressed up as a sexy character, but like to sell sexy prints. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I would rather do that stuff online now, I think, than at like a family setting.
True. Makes sense. A lot of people, and from what I've seen and when I've talked to, they don't seem to like, think about stuff like that. And I think at least with your case, you've done other things that I feel like have given you that other perspective. Because if I had the choice, if I was in your shoes, I would totally do some of these other stuff because I think it's more exciting. Again, you go out to different places more, you get to meet more crazier people, like bigger people. And the other thing I wanted to kind of segue into is some of the bigger events, like obviously Comic-Con, obviously the E3s and stuff. And then, like I mentioned before, the Avengers Endgame premiere, like some of these big movie premieres, and that's got to be surreal, especially for maybe films that you probably worked on. Like, has that ever really hit you at any point, especially maybe earlier in your career? It's just like, oh, I had something to do with this film. Like, people love this.
So I think fanboys might, face palm here, but we were at the Avengers Endgame, and like, I freaked out when I saw Miley Cyrus.
Oh, really?
Miley Cyrus came, and I was like, oh my, like, I literally got to meet Chris Pratt, Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, friggin' everybody. But it wasn't until I saw Miley Cyrus that I was like, oh, Miley Cyrus! Like, oh my God.
Well, and then, that's a big celebrity.
I think, like, honestly, and I don't know why, but I was like, oh, this is a big deal. Like, this is a big deal. Like, Miley Cyrus is here. And I know she's just there because she's dating the Hemsworth brother. But I was just like, whoa. And then Natalie Portman walked out. And I totally forgot. Like, I wasn't expecting to see Natalie Portman. And the Star Wars in me was just like, oh, Natalie Portman, what?
You see, that's the cool thing about you, though, is that, like, you have, like, bases in all these different types of fandoms. Because, obviously, Marvel with Endgame, Star Wars, because, again, you mentioned Natalie Portman. You've done some stuff with Star Trek, which I don't see a lot of cosplayers really doing it, other than the ones that are really into it. But, like, you're well-vexed and well-versed in, like, all this different type of stuff.
We built the Star Trek Adversaries game. And that was, like, oh my God, that was like the most beautiful game I've ever had the pleasure of working on. Out of all the games that I've worked on, that by far is like, it's just visually ridiculously stunning. And the complexity to that game was on another level of like brilliance. It was just such a fantastic thing to be a part of. But then I've also got to work on Star Wars games. I did Star Wars for the Kinect, and I did the mocap work. This is back in the day when I was doing mocap, and I did the Slave Leia dance moves to that video game, and some other mocap work for that, and some other games as well. But so it's been really interesting. Like, I think I've worked on almost all of my favorite like fandoms.
Big franchises.
Yeah, and there's one that we're working on now that I'm an NDA, so I can't talk about that one, but it's literally like, if you follow my Instagram page, you know what fandom is left out of so we're working on that. I don't know if that one's gonna go anywhere. I hope so, but if not, we have a backup to reskin it for another company, another very large company that I've always wanted to work with. So either way, if it goes through with this fandom, that I shall not say, that if you check out my Instagram, it's not Star Wars or Star Trek, you know what it is. Or it's not Star Trek, Marvel, or anyways, I collect a lot of it. It's plastic.
That's cool.
But yeah, so I think that, if it goes through, beyond excited. If it doesn't go through, we already have a backup with another major game company that's been around forever and a day. So either way, like, I think that that's going to be a really solid project that's coming out next. Again, can't really talk about that one until like God knows when.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, I mean, I truly have like a blast doing all of this. I will say it has a ton of ups and downs. I don't have a steady paycheck, which a lot of people.
I know that feeling.
Right? Yeah. So I think a lot of people.
We're going to talk a little bit about that in the Patreon episode because I want to dive into some of that stuff.
Perfect. Perfect. Brilliant. Perfect place to put that.
Because I want to dive into that because I feel like that's a whole another conversation. That's like a really like an interesting stuff again as someone that's like wants to be part of like one of these different fandoms or at least a different sect of the industry. I feel like again that there's a lot of food for thought that could come from that. But we'll get to that in just a bit. Krystle, thank you so much for chatting up with me on this episode. I mean, you're on the socials like we've just been talking about. Where can everybody find you right now?
Well, I live on Instagram at Krystlestarwars, Krystle Star Wars.
There you go.
Yep.
That's the only social media you use because I know you've been on like Twitter and stuff, right? But you use Instagram the most because I see you on there the most.
Yeah, my Twitter account, I don't ever check. It's literally linked to my Instagram and it just double posts. So don't message me on Twitter. I don't live there.
Oh, cool. There you go. There'll be links in the description box below, guys, so you could go check it out. Show us some love. Yeah.
Also, I'm on YouTube every week under Nerd Ninja TV. So every week I bring you a 5-minute video of everything in the nerd culture that's happening that I'm allowed to talk about, which is most things. So yeah, my YouTube is definitely where a lot of my heart and soul goes these days.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was just going to say, because I know that you've done like YouTube videos and stuff, but there's going to be links to that stuff, guys, right below in the description box, so you guys can go check all that stuff out. Show her some love. Send her some owl hugs. We send people owl hugs here to everybody that comes out to the show. A bunch of little owl emotes that you
If you send me send me owl emojis in my Instagram, I'll be very happy.
There you go. We're gonna bombard you with a bunch of owls. We're gonna be like, where the hell did all these owls come from? What the hell? Like, this is weird. But thank you, Krystle, for coming out to the show. We're gonna talk a little bit more on EX mode for my Patreon subscribers, guys. If you guys didn't know, if you haven't checked out my Patreon page, you guys need to do so. For the $1 level or higher, you're not only gonna get this bonus episode we're gonna do in just a bit, but all the other bonus episodes of the podcast, as well as other great exclusive content that you guys definitely need to check out. From the two of us here, we will talk to you again very soon. Peace out and stay epic, everybody.